So, let me tell you about a story. It's about a man, a king named Tantalus. And the story goes like this. He won't dine with the gods. Real VIP access, celestial lightning, and the whole buffet. Stuff like that. But his greed and his arrogance got the better of him. He stole ambrosia and nectar, the two things that could make him and his people immortal and reveal divine secrets. And the gods were furious, and that led him to his punishment. He was cast into a pool of clear, drinkable water underneath a tree heavy with plum fruits. Every time he reaches up, the branch lifted higher, and every time he bent down to drink, the water receded. He was surrounded by abundance, by everything he ever wanted, and could touch nothing. And that's where we got the word tantalize from. To torment or tease someone with the sight or promise of something unreachable. And at first, when I heard of the story, my mind wasn't going like, wow, how tragically profound. It was more like, wow, that sounds just exactly like me trying to be productive after 10. Every time I reach for motivation, it slipped through my finger. And every time I reach for success, the world burst out laughing at me and said, not today. Tantalus spent an eternity in a pool of water he couldn't drink and fruit he couldn't reach. He basically invented window shopping. He walked so that IKEA could run. And then I came across a story that's called Which Had Atelier. And suddenly, that story about the unreachable fruit became a little too real, a little too raw. It was the same illustrated version of the same curse. And Coco, the protagonist, was living it. Both stories begin with someone who sees wonder just beyond their fingertips and reaches anyway. But both ask the same question. Why do we spend so much of life chasing things that will inevitably slip away while overlooking the things that are already in front of us? Sometimes I just wonder, maybe us humans have this strange habit of running towards shiny things when our hands are already full of shinier things. It's as if we're entranced by the act of chasing itself, not the treasure. In a novel, Coco finds, in Which Had Atelier, Coco loves magic, the same way some kids love fireworks, with her whole eyes and her heart wide open. But she grew up being told a lie, that magic was inherited. You have to be born into it. People like her shouldn't even think about it. And she believed it. And honestly, it's the same with us too, isn't it? Think of when you're young, still a teen, when the whole world just seemed a lot bigger than you thought. I remember classmates who got full 8 hours of sleep and still full scores. Some were prodigies in art, some were master at the musical instrument, and some were chemistry addicts who basically inhaled the whole syllabus. And then there was me, standing in the middle of everything, thinking, wow, apparently brilliance is genetics. Okay, cool, love that for them. Too bad I didn't get a memo. I felt hopeless, I really did. English just isn't your thing, or people like us don't end up in jobs like that. And before I even knew it, before I even tried, I've shrunk my dreams down to match someone else's expectations. We often mistake people's fear for our own limitations, because when an adult tells you things, you don't question it. You just quietly shrink your dreams, the small pieces of yourself, to match someone else's rules. And then in a novel, Coco finds a forbidden spell book. And suddenly, she saw something Tantalus never could. Maybe the fruit wasn't actually unreachable. Maybe someone just told her that it was. So she reaches. And everything changed. Her mother turned to stone by accident. The whole world closes in on her. And the great law, something that's meant to protect, becomes a barrier that blocks her from the truth. She wanted to save her mother so badly. It felt as if her heart was going to jump off her chest. And the world kept saying, no, not yet, not ever. In the world of witches, there's something called the Great Law. It's meant to protect magic, prevent misuses, and keep people safe. Basically, the magic equivalent of don't touch the stove, don't run with scissors, and absolutely no conjuring world-ending catastrophic spells. Well, maybe not the last part, but you get the point. In trying to protect everything, the Great Law also blocks the truth. It hides knowledge. It erases memories. And it forces kids like Coco to grow up in the dark. And when you look at all of this, you start to see the same pattern as Tantalus. Maybe his punishment wasn't at the fruit he couldn't reach or water he couldn't drink. It was a life without progress. His tragedy wasn't hunger. It was stagnation. And strangely, our own lives can look a little bit like that too when the rules around us gets too tight. A study in BMC psychology, published by Meng-Lu Yang, has established that overparenting, or sometimes referred as helicopter parenting, impedes individual career explorations. This means when parents are too risk-averse or controlling, children tend to disengage from ever finding their own path. They stop reaching because they've been taught that there is no point. And maybe that's the real curse of Tantalus, that reaching is meaningless. But Coco reminds us that reaching does matter. Even when she fails, even when she reaches for magic that she wasn't meant to use, every attempt reshapes her. Every moment of despair strengthens her. And every forbidden spell brings her a step closer to understanding the world. Maybe that's the answer to our own Tantalus moment as well. Maybe the point isn't to grab the fruit or drink the water, not immediately, of course. Maybe the point is to reach, to stretch, to grow, and to fall in love with the act of almost. Sometimes the fruit is just high enough for us to stand a little taller. Sometimes the water is just low enough for us to take a step forward. And sometimes the things that we were chasing were already in front of us, waiting to be noticed. So let me tell you about one final thing. A paradox that I call the paradox of growing up. When I speak of growing up, you might think of when everything finally makes sense, when you finally gain what you hope for, or unlock a world-ending catastrophic spells just to prove that you've made it. As if adulthood is some kind of prize you get for surviving childhood. But growing up doesn't work like that. It doesn't mean collecting every dream or mastering life as if it's some kind of final boss fight. It means learning when to reach, when to breathe, and when to pause just long enough to appreciate the beauty of the reaching itself. Because beauty isn't only in the achievement, it's in the attempt, the practice, the wobbling circles around each spells, and the courage to try again tomorrow, even if today didn't go as you wanted. Coco learns this slowly and painfully. She learned that the world lied to her, yeah, but she also learned something far deeper. That magic wasn't something she had to be born with. It was something she could grow, something that was in her imagination, her mind, her courage, and just the fact that she dares to reach again, even after failing. And maybe that's us too. It's that moment when you realize you don't need to be gifted to read, to write, to dance, or just to dream. You just need to start. We spend so much time chasing, waiting for a sign, waiting for validation, waiting to become someone who can, that we forget one simple truth. Magic begins reaching, growth begins the moment you whisper to yourself. Okay, I'll give this a shot. Because sometimes magic isn't only in the results. Sometimes magic is the fact that you dared to reach in the first place. So, yeah, we might look at things with a spark in our eyes. Fame, success, money, the bigger, shinier fruits. And that's all right. Reaching is human. Reaching is how we grow. But just make sure you don't get lost on your way. The road can be rough, the world can be loud, and hope can be blinding. So sometimes, it's good to just stop, to notice the breeze underneath that unreachable tree, to feel the ground underwater that keeps you steady, and to notice that the things we were chasing were never dangling above our head. They were in front of us, waiting to be noticed this whole time. And that's the gentle magic of almost. Thank you.